The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, we are back. We just got done not that long ago with our actual first radio edition of the show, plus YouTube, on our brand new home for 2022. You can see the logo for it right here. It's 95.1 The Mountain. It's a radio station out of East Central Alabama, based in Anniston. Got a really good range, though, which goes pretty much from the Alabama-Georgia state line almost to Birmingham.
Yep. It gets pretty good over to Leeds, then it starts slowly easing out.
Yeah, and north to south from approximately Gadsden to a little bit south of Sylacauga. So we appreciate everybody over here at 95.1 The Mountain, including most notably Grady Sapp.
Absolutely.
For helping us become part of the family over here. We really appreciate it. So you can listen on air. If you can't listen on air, they do have an app. They've got their own app. It's 95.1 The Mountain. Just go into your favorite app store, doesn't matter whether you're Apple or whether you're Android. You can pick it up that way. So just search for 95.1 The Mountain in the App Store, and you'll be able to listen that way from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central Time each and every Saturday morning. Or, of course, you can camp out right here on YouTube. Sometimes we'll be live when we go on the air. In other cases, we're going to be on a little bit of a delay. But as long as you go onto YouTube, you search out Championship Racing Network, and you hit subscribe, obviously you'll get a notification every time we go on the air. Tell your friends. Tell a lot of your friends.
Everybody!
That's right. But that being said, while we got to a lot, it was 4 weeks since we had been on the air last.
Yep.
And there was a lot of news that came about. So we got through IndyCar, Formula One, Formula E. We got in through the Cup Series and did a whole lot of the Xfinity. We still got to finish Xfinity. How about some Camping World Truck Series? How about some NHRA news? We even got some SRX, Superstar Racing Experience news from Tony Stewart and Ray Everham's series set to return for season number 2. And then there's some news about different tracks and, unfortunately, some passings over the past 4 weeks or so. So we wanted to have a little special edition of the show here, specifically for our YouTube viewers and listeners, so that you guys could know some stuff that some other people don't.
Just a little.
Pretty cool, huh? All right, so here we go. When we last left off, we were talking about how Noah Gragson and the 9 team had a new crew chief, and it's Luke Lambert. He's a Cup Series veteran crew chief, and we think this is going to do great things for Noah Gragson, who was a champion contender, made it to the Final Four. But earlier on in the year, they were having some problems. We think Luke Lambert's going to be able to kind of lock those guys down. We talked about the driver and crew chief pairings for CRN Motorsports as well. Then there's Alpha Prime Racing, and Alpha Prime seems new, but it's actually a team built out of an old team.
Right. It's built out of Tommy Joe Martin's Motorsports team that they started a couple years ago.
Well, he's got one of his 2 full-time cars set up with several drivers that they're planning on using, and added another one just after 2022 came into existence officially. He signed Sage Karam. And if that name sounds familiar, you probably have heard of him doing some IndyCar exploits, most notably the Indy 500. He's going to drive what the team is calling select races for 2022. The first of those being March 19th, when he will join at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The exact number of races or even which tracks Karam will be ending up racing in total has not been detailed. But he did race 4 times last year for Jordan Anderson Racing in Xfinity competition. Then there's Andy Lally, and this is where Sage Karam probably came in. Andy Lally, who had signed to race for the team 6 times in 2022, had asked to be released from his contract from the team, and they granted that. So I imagine Sage Karam will get, I would say, the majority of the Andy Lally events.
He would, Sage Karam will definitely get those road course races, because it was established that Andy Lally was going to drive all of the road course events for the Xfinity Series in the 44 car.
Right.
So
here comes Sage Karam.
Yeah, Sage
probably
Karam
gets a lot of the road course races that Andy Lally leaves. He'll get Atlanta. Who knows? Depending on how he performs, he might get more. SS Greenlight Racing has, save for a couple of interesting times when they kind of jumped up there and surprised a couple of people, they've been an also-ran for a lot of their time in the Xfinity Series. But they're hoping things are going to change here as we go into 2022, hoping they're going to move up that ladder from middle echelon into the upper echelons of the series. To do that, they're switching from Chevrolet to Ford. There's clue number 1. Clue number 2, which should help them if they take the advice that they're going to be given, is that they've signed an alliance with Stewart-Haas Racing. Stewart-Haas Racing will build the cars and offer tech support for the team. Roush engines will provide the power. Also, as part of the deal, Stewart-Haas Racing Cup Series drivers Cole Custer and Chase Briscoe have been announced to be driving some select races for them in one of their full-time rides. Joe Graff Jr. will drive the other ride on a full-time basis. It'll be kind of a star car, that second car. You're unimpressed?
Joe Graff, yes, unimpressed.
Okay.
Cole Custer and Chase Briscoe, you can expect about what you'd expect out of them. Very, very consistent, top 10, maybe even top 5.
You never know.
Or even a win, you never know.
Then we'll have to see how much Joe Graff Jr. might actually heed from what he learns from the Stewart-Haas Racing drivers.
Bingo, bingo, bingo.
Learn. Listen. Open the ears real wide, Joe.
Correct.
Then there's the other SHR. You might not have realized there are 2 SHRs in NASCAR. Stewart-Haas Racing is the obvious one. The other one is Sam Hunt Racing. Sam Hunt Racing, once again, going to field the number 26 Toyota Supra in the series. And man, do they have a long list of drivers that they are going to employ this year. Santino Ferrucci's back. John Hunter Nemechek is back. Brandon Godovic is back. There's a couple of others. Oh, by the way, just announced this past week, a couple of days ago, Ryan Truex. He's going to drive the season opener at Daytona. He'll need a car sponsored by Circle B Diecast. And Jeffrey Earnhardt will get multiple races behind the wheel. He'll have his races sponsored by Forever Lawn. They know that they want to do more with Truex. Again, Earnhardt has several races planned. The exact numbers for either driver, though, not yet revealed. Sam Hunt Racing...
Sleeper team.
But all these drivers vary so much in their driving styles.
Oh, for sure.
How much does that hurt as opposed to help?
It probably gives the crew chief a lot of gray hairs. Not
sure
having to adjust the car to different drivers from Brandon Godovic, Santino Ferrucci, Jeffrey Earnhardt, Ryan Truex,
John Hunter
Nemechek, me.
If you're the crew chief, I'll put you in the crew chief role as opposed to the driver role.
Yeah.
If you're the crew chief here, all these drivers are going to give you advice.
Sure.
Whose advice are you listening to and putting a little more weight to as opposed to the other drivers?
Whoever my senior driver is that has the most clout and stature in the series.
Among the ones that we've said, who do you think that is? Truex. I was actually going to go John Hunter Nemechek.
I always say Truex because he's my driver.
Well, it's Martin Truex's brother.
I would have to agree. If that lineup is very similar this year as it was last year, yeah, Nemechek.
Yeah.
All day
you think
long.
about what Nemechek brings to the team. You think about what he brought to Front Row Motorsports a couple of years ago, and then last year was able to take that and help Kyle Busch Motorsports, which is no slouch anyway, but help them elevate their game even that much more.
Right.
I kind of go there. That's the first name that pops out to me anyway.
If you want to know why Ford is expanding their teams in Xfinity, here's the reason why right here.
Yes, it is. We had talked about this when Cole Custer was full-time last in the Xfinity Series. We marveled at the fact that there were really only 2 full-time cars. And it was Cole Custer and it was Austin Cindric over at Team Penske. Team Penske announced that for 2022, because Austin Cindric has moved up to the Cup Series for this year as a Sunoco Rookie of the Year candidate, they are suspending their Xfinity Series operation. Again, usually they ran 2 full-time cars, one for a series regular, which as of last year was Austin Cindric, and the other one kind of more of a star car, which allowed their Cup Series cars to moonlight. Well, Cindric again now in the Cup Series, driving the number 2 car since Brad Keselowski is now over at RFK Racing, and because he had moved up, the Xfinity cupboard was kind of bare.
You could have found somebody to drive that car.
One would think.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is the fact that their Xfinity Series sponsorship all kind of migrated up to Cup as well. So they had no sponsorship to deal with. Team executives state that they might enter some races if the sponsorship issue changes, but at this time, their Xfinity Series operation goes into hibernation. Ford will want them back because Team Penske is a constant threat to be a winner of races and titles, witness Austin Cindric, at the Xfinity Series level. They're going to want badly for Team Penske to be back. So I can almost guarantee you they're going to fight real hard to, number one, find them sponsorship, and number two, hey, we can find you a driver.
Ford now has essentially went from 2 cars in Xfinity to 5.
Which helps.
It helps a lot.
All of them are now Stewart House Racing affiliated for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, because you got Ryan Sieg and his team, they're going to 2 cars next year. Okay?
And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they sign an alliance with Stewart House?
They did.
That's what I thought. That's why I said all of them affiliated in some way with SHR.
You got the Riley Herbst. He's coming back. SHR is going to field a second car.
For some races.
For some races, yeah. And then you got the 2 SS Greenlight cars, the All-Star car and the primary car, Joe Graff. So essentially, you're going to have 6
in some races.
5 the rest of the time.
Yeah. So it helps Ford, but they're going to want Team Penske back.
They need another flagship car in there.
Let's go back to something that we referenced in the on-air show, in the fact that Stewart Haas Racing has signed what they're calling, this is their words, not ours, a reserve driver. No, we're not talking Formula One. This is NASCAR. They've signed Ryan Preece to be a reserve driver just in case one driver happens to be out due to COVID purposes. They've got Ryan Preece to pull upon. But over the course of the year, he will act as a reserve driver in some ways. He'll be in the Ford Performance Simulator in Charlotte, North Carolina. But he will also get several starts across all 3 of NASCAR's top series. We mentioned the fact that Eric Almirola is going into his final year. He's set to retire after the 2022 season from the Cup Series racing and full-time racing period, which leaves the seat open. And I asked you, who's the most likely driver to fill it? So you got Riley Earps waiting in the wings down in the Xfinity Series, but now all of a sudden you've thrown kind of a monkey wrench into the works because you got Ryan Preece sitting there, who's got more Cup Series practical experience than Riley Earps could hope to have at this particular point in time. You said
all day long, Ryan Preece. He's won in trucks. He's won in Xfinity. Riley Herbst hadn't won in trucks. Hasn't won in Xfinity. Yeah, he's won in ARCA, which my nephew could win in ARCA, and he's 8 years old. It's Preece all day long going in the 10 car.
Unless Riley Earps massively steps up his game.
Well, yeah, unless he wakes up.
It's going to have to be a massive wake-up. Riley, you listening? Joey Gase is a veteran in the upper levels of NASCAR, but he hasn't really had major success at the top levels. Part of it is the fact that he's had a hard time getting really good competition. But he's decided, you know what? Instead of trying to fight to get great cars from some other owner, I'm going to be an owner-driver. He's paired up with another NASCAR veteran, a Whelen Modified Tour veteran by the name of Patrick Emmerling. They formed a new Xfinity Series team called Emmerling Gase Motorsports. They're going to run 2 cars, full-time cars, number 35. That number 35 will get owner's points from Our Motorsports and their former number 23. The other car will be a part-time car. No other details were given on that. Gase has said that they plan to use several different drivers. So even though he's going to be an owner driver, Gase, who mostly will be the driver in the 35, won't be in that car for the entire season. He's planning on keeping a part-time Cup schedule. So Emmerling, who's gotten 3 starts in the Xfinity Series in 2021 with Our Motorsports, he'll get some wheel time in the 35, as will Shane Lee. And in their words, quote, others that will be announced at a later date. So this is a multiple driver car once again.
Yep.
Emmerling's best finish last year, a rather pedestrian 24th at Kansas, but he's doing very well in the Whelen Modified Tour. He finished 2nd in the final standings last year. Lee has raced in the Xfinity Series, but not since 2019. But he did work with Gase, sold him both the cars and the equipment that are able to start this team, so that's kind of his end. I'm not sure I can expect a whole lot. No disrespect to Joey Gase, no disrespect to Patrick Emmerling or Shane Lee. I'm thinking a lot of growing pains in year 1. A lot of growing pains.
Quite a bit. You may see them because Joey Gase's best career finish in Xfinity is at a super speedway. Shane Lee's is as well.
Mm-hmm.
You may see him threat at a super speedway race, but don't bank on it.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah,
we'll
don't
see.
bank on it.
Let's find out what their true commitment is. Once you get past year one, we'll find out how committed these guys are.
Right.
That's going to tell a lot. To the Camping World Truck Series, Cody Rohrbaugh's got his team. It's called CR7 Motorsports. Just before Christmas Day, they announced they're going to run full-time in the Truck Series in 2022. They're going to break out Chevrolet Silverados with the number 9 emblazoned on the side. Blaine Perkins is listed as their driver, and you probably are going, who? Blaine Perkins is 21-year-old. He's got 1 year. He's on a 1-year deal with CR7 Motorsports. This marks his second year in NASCAR. He had a part-time slate in 2021 where he ran 8 races in Xfinity Series competition. This will be CR7 Motorsports' first year in full-time Truck Series competition. Single truck deal right now. Following beginning in 2016 as an ARCA Series team, Rohrbaugh splitting the driving with Jason Kitzmiller mostly, but adding 48 Truck Series starts over that time frame as well. Rohrbaugh, Cody Howard, and Grant Enfinger have all been part of that operation, so they've had names that came in with them.
Right.
But otherwise, you really haven't heard a whole lot about them as far as the competition aspect is concerned.
You know, about the only time they've had any kind of, I guess you could say, threat to be top 10 is when Grant Enfinger's been behind the wheel.
Now, that being said, the guy who is going to be the crew chief and calling the shots for Blaine Perkins and the number 9, he's got 18 years of crew chief experience with him. He's been called the shots for drivers including Mark Martin, Mike Skinner, Ron Hornaday Jr., Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Eric Almirola, and others. His name is Doug George. What does he bring?
That's going to pick it up a lot.
What does he bring? What does he do for a 21-year-old?
It's that experienced wrench on the box, you know, to keep him calm.
He's the sounding board.
He's the sounding board, yeah.
Okay.
He's that experienced wrench to where it will keep him, it'll keep his head screwed on. Let's say that.
Right.
He won't let him get flustered. He won't let him just get way out of whack to where he's tearing equipment up right and left every week. He'll keep his head screwed on and have him a good truck week after week to where he can learn consistently.
Okay. Then that brings us to Matt DiBenedetto. This is a sad story. Matt DiBenedetto was told last year that unless things changed, he was not going to return to the Wood Brothers number 21, which is pretty much half an operation between Wood Brothers and Team Penske.
Right.
And sure enough, as the year came to a close, Brad Keselowski leaves. Austin Cindric had been initially announced to take over the number 21. He moves to the 2. We thought maybe they'll keep Matt DiBenedetto. Nope. They put Harrison Burton into the number 21. So you got Austin Cindric and Harrison Burton as part of the 2022 rookie class.
Yeah.
Left Matt DiBenedetto out in the cold. And you and I have both said he's one of the most talented Cup Series racers currently on the slate that hasn't gotten a win yet.
Yeah.
It's more a matter of when than if.
Yep.
Well, unfortunately, no other Cup team picked him up. What? No Xfinity Series team picked him up. What?
And I'll give you the reason why. And I'm not ashamed to say it. Because of the absolute fools that are on social media that bash him and everything he says. Everybody's entitled to their own belief of no matter what it is.
Sure.
I don't care if it's anything down from politics to religion to sports or just life in general. You're entitled to your own belief.
Agreed.
He believes his stuff. I believe mine. We agree on some. We disagree on some.
Sure.
We're human.
Heck, that happens in this room between the three of us that are part of this show.
But to sell somebody short of getting a top level ride, and it's gotten so dependent on, oh, you got to give me $10 million just to get my seat. Some of the older veterans, like a Mike Skinner, a Mark Martin, a Ron Hornaday Jr., will sit and tell you the days of getting a seat on talent are done.
Pretty much.
A seat on
talent get you
talent
so
done.
far, but you better have a check.
It's an unfair disservice to him, in my opinion. The guy can drive. He's been able to prove that he can get in and drive and take lackluster equipment and go to the front. Yep. See Go Fast Racing 32 car.
Amen.
He can do that. But he's been done a serious injustice because of the keyboard warriors that are on social media. And some of them I personally know. And with this going on a video, and we're not on live air, I'll say it. If some of your parents knew how you acted on social media versus how you are in real life, I'd hate to see what they do behind closed doors.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't want to know.
I would hate to see it. Be yourself. Stop being somebody that you're not.
Yeah. Stop being internet brave. If you wouldn't say it to their face, if you were face to face with them, don't say it when you're online.
Don't let your thumb be stronger than your mouth.
Exactly. But that being said, credit to Rackley War Racing in the Camping World Truck Series. They have signed Matt Benedetto for 2022. He'll drive their number 25 Chevy Silverado. Chad Kendrick will be his crew chief. He'll run the entire Truck Series schedule. There's one part of me that really hopes, and I don't mean any disrespect to Ryan Preece. I don't mean any disrespect to Riley Earps. Good grief, I'd love to see Stewart Haas Racing say, you know what, Eric Almirola is out, but Matt Benedetto is right there. I'd love to see that.
All right, let's say hypothetically, and hypothetically it could happen.
This is pure speculation on our part. We don't know anything.
It could. Pure speculation. Let's stress that. What if through the season, say Kevin Harvick says, all right, 22, I'm done.
Ooh.
This is it.
That'd be huge.
Not one seat open, but 2 seats open at SHR.
That'd be huge. That would be huge.
And we all know that Tony Stewart, with the exception of one instance last year, which it was very well known and made to be known, that Ford would not allow him to sign Kyle Larson because of all the mess that happened.
Yeah.
Don't you think for one second that Tony Stewart would not say, I'm putting him in my car?
Regardless.
Or I'm putting these 2 in my 2 open seats.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
But with him being
I'd love to see it.
But with how, and this is no disservice to Timothy Peters. Timothy Peters, great driver. I always have respect for Timothy Peters. But when they made that change last year mid-season, going from Timothy Peters, and Josh Berry pretty much carried it out for the rest of the year. That truck woke up.
It did. Agreed.
And now that they got somebody with just as much experience as Timothy Peters, but fresher experience, that truck's not going to fall at all.
I agree wholeheartedly. That brings us to Young's Motorsports. Spencer Boyd and Young's Motorsports teamed up for 2022. This will mark their 4th season together. But he gets a new number. Boyd had used the number 20 in his prior years with Young's, but for the team, apparently the number 12 means more. Why, they did not detail. But they said that they and the driver, Spencer Boyd, are excited to use it. So, Young's Motorsports switching from 20 to 12. Parker Kliegerman going to be back in 2022 as well. In fact, he's going to be kind of all over the place when it comes to NASCAR. He'll be a reporter on television, and yes, he'll be a driver. He has signed a deal to run 8 to 12 races. They haven't locked down the full schedule yet. For Henderson Motorsports in 2022. Kliegerman posted on social media, quote, nothing new, planning to do normal 8 to 12 races with Henderson. He did 11 races last year with 2 top 5 and 5 top 10 finishes, piloting their number 75 Chevrolet Silverado. I don't really see much difference going into 2022. I think he could absolutely do pretty much the exact same thing again.
Pretty much. Yeah, he could.
And then there's Corey Heim. Corey Heim was announced as a part-time driver for Kyle Busch Motorsports just before Christmas. The 2021 ARCA Racing Series second place points finisher will get 15 races next year in the number 51 Toyota Tundra. Marty Lindley will be calling the shots as the crew chief on that truck. He'll race in the season opener at Daytona. He'll run the final 8 races of 2022, and then there's some 6 other unconfirmed races in between there. Now, for last year, he ran 3 races for Kyle Busch Motorsports. He ran up front at Darlington for a time before he got caught up in a crash. His best finish came at Martinsville, where he finished 11th, so I imagine those probably are 2 of the races that he'll get again.
Yep.
We'll see. Then we got some sad news from the racing world over the last few weeks.
Too much.
Too much, really, yeah. I mean, it's not just... if you look at the entertainment world, for lack of a better term, you think about all the movie and TV stars and music stars that we lost over the last few weeks. Racing was also hurt pretty bad. We start off with former Truck Series driver Bob Keselowski, the father of 2012 champion Brad Keselowski and his fellow racer Brian. Bob was born August 1st, 1951. His father, John, had instilled his love of racing into Bob because John had been a motorcycle racer who turned team owner. He was actually Bob's first car owner when Bob began racing himself. Burst out onto the national scene in 1980 when he broke into the ARCA Racing Series. He ran the Michigan race, finished a rather disappointing 28th, and kind of backed out of it, wouldn't race ARCA again until 1985 when he finished 17th at Toledo before he got a regular ride for 1986. Finished 10th in final points, winning his first race at Berlin that particular year. Got 3 wins in 1987 and finished 3rd in the final points, 5 wins in 1988, 2nd in final points. Claimed his first ARCA racing title, 1989, with another 4-win season. He raced full-time at ARCA through 1994, never finishing lower than 4th in final points. But after running 2 ARCA races in 1995, he said, "I'm done." And he moved up into what was then the NASCAR Super Truck Series. Kids, remember when NASCAR, what we now call the Camping World Truck Series, debuted?
Throwback!
1995. He was piloting Dodge Rams for the entire time of the family's K Automotive racing team. He wasn't going to have a whole lot of success. He did get a win. He got a win in 1997 at Richmond. That was the same year he claimed his highest points finish in the series, 14th. Wrapped up his NASCAR career in 1999. He ran only 4 races in the series that year, helped get off the ground as one of the first full-time racers in the series when it got off and got started. He got 1 Cup Series start. That was 1994 at Pocono. He ran for Jimmy Means Racing. Finished a very disappointing 41st. But his son Brad went on, picked up the family name. As you know, 2012 Cup Series champion, now part owner of RFK Racing. In 2019, Bob had been diagnosed with cancer. He succumbed to it on December the 22nd. Bob Keselowski was 70 years old. I had the chance to meet him once. Went out to Columbus for a performance. I forget what the exact name of it was, but it was Columbus, Ohio, and it was a performance gathering. It was like almost like a swap meet, but a lot of drivers showed up to it. It's not PRI, I can tell you that, but it was something similar to that. And Bob happened to be there, and myself and a co-host of a racing show I was involved in the mid-1990s at that time. He was very gracious with his time. He spent probably 15-20 minutes talking to the two of us just about, how things were going in the truck series. Very, very nice guy, very affable guy.
Yeah.
Real easy to get along with. Sad to hear that he passed away, again, 70 years old.
The one thing that I saw on social media that was shared by his son Brian, Brad's brother, and the funeral home that directed his service in Michigan, you get a tip of the cap from me. This was probably, I'd say, one of the hardest things I've ever seen done, but probably one of the neatest things I've ever seen done. The funeral home let Bob's brother Ron and Brian drive Bob to his final resting place.
Oh, very nice.
They took him to his final resting place. If I'm not mistaken, in Bob's old classic truck that he built, they carried him on his last ride in that classic truck that he built.
Very nice.
Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Whatever service you used, kudos to you. Bravo.
Yeah. Brad released a short statement on social media about the passing of Bob. Said, quote, "My dad will always be my hero. He was quiet, understated, but that didn't change the impact he had on me or that I watched him have on everyone who knew him. I'm forever grateful for what I learned from this man. I will remember him every day," and should. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, with the motivation level, that 6 car is probably going to be dangerous this year.
I would think so.
Very dangerous.
We also got word from our business, the broadcasting business. Colleagues over at the Performance Racing Network lost their fellow co-worker and personality, Steve Richards. He actually passed away the same day as Keselowski did. Richards worked for PRN for over 3 decades. He helped the network's coverage of NASCAR races all across the country and did some in-studio programming for the network as well. During his time at PRN, he did many, many things. He was a pit reporter. He was a producer. He was a co-anchor. But he just couldn't be kept out of the garage area, most people said. Most people would say that if it was a race weekend and you couldn't find but wanted to find Richards, start with pit road or somewhere in the garage area where he'd be interviewing and or talking to drivers or crew chiefs. PRN released a statement on Richards' passing, said this, quote, "Steve Richards, longtime friend and colleague of the PRN team, passed away last night, December 22nd. Steve had been a key part of so many broadcasts. He was loved and respected by the NASCAR community. He will be greatly missed. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and loved ones." Mark Garrow from PRN, probably one of the most, if not the most known personality on PRN, posted on social media before his passing, quote, "Steve Richards has helped produce my radio show for well over 2 decades. He's been a PRN pit reporter for many years. More importantly, he's a good guy. Because of COVID, he's now in critical condition. He's put on a ventilator this morning. Please lift him up in your prayers. And right after his death, Garrow took the time to be able to post this. Quote, "It's with profound sadness I regret to inform you, our friend Steve Richard Leibovitz has passed away due to complications from COVID after waging a courageous battle. Doctors felt it best to take him off the ventilator last night. Please pray for his family and his loved ones. All of us here at the Championship Racing Network send our thoughts and our prayers to both Keselowski and the Richards family and to the Earnhardt family." The matriarch of the Earnhardt Racing dynasty, as word came down the day after Christmas that Martha Earnhardt had passed away. Martha married one Ralph Earnhardt back in 1947, was the mother to Dale Earnhardt Sr., grandmother to Carrie, Kelly, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. She was widowed, however, when Ralph passed away in 1973. That left her with 5 children, Dale obviously among the 3 sons and 2 daughters as well. Dale Jr. and Kelly released a statement that read, in part, quote, "As we grieve her loss and begin to imagine life without our beloved Mama, we find solace in knowing that she is at peace and resting in eternal glory and in joyous reunion with her husband Ralph and sons Dale, Randy, and Danny."
Probably on the Dale Jr. download for anybody that listens to it. I would say, arguably for me, the best episode they've ever done is when he interviewed Martha.
I can see that.
That was phenomenal.
I can see that. He's done some pretty good interviews, too. And that says a lot about it, and I kind of agree with it, I got to admit.
Yep.
Also passing was a former Indycar owner by the name of Kevin Kalkoven. It's easy for me to say. Is a venture capitalist initially who saw an opportunity back in 2002, and he helped form a company called KPLJ Ventures. He worked with kart team owner Jerry Forsyth, outbidding IRL founder Tony George for kart's assets, and he formed the Champ Car Series. He continued the American Open Wheel Series split by doing that. He started a team also with a gentleman by the name of Craig Pollock. Forsyth and Kalkoven bought into the Grand Prix of Long Beach. That became Champ Car's crown jewel race because the IRL had the Indy 500. He actually bought also the Cosworth Performance Division from Ford. The race team with Pollock was called PK Racing, was struggling after 1 year, so they brought Jimmy Vasser on board and made it PKV Racing. The 1996 kart title winner, he breathed some life into the team and to the series, but it was just too expensive for Forsyth and Kalkoven to continue, so Kalkoven opened up talks with George about re-merging the 2 warring series, and in 2009 they officially became one, what we now call Indycar. Forsyth backed out, but Kalkoven continued his partnership. In the team situation with Vasser, it was KV Racing. He brought on James Sullivan in 2014 for KVSH Racing, and they started having some success with a driver you might have heard of, 2013 Indy 500 winner Tony Kanaan, but they decided to fold shop in 2016. Reports had him suffering from an unknown illness recently, which contributed to his passing. It was released on January the 4th. Cosworth, his now former company, released a short statement that read, quote, "Since his involvement with Cosworth back in 2004, he'd been a key source of inspiration for the business. His passion for motorsport is well documented, but he was also a visionary and a pioneer of future technology. He was the leading force behind Cosworth's evolution into a transportation technology business. We honor his contribution, which will undoubtedly have a long-lasting beneficial legacy. On behalf of everyone at Cosworth, we send our sincere condolences to Kevin's wife and family at this understandably difficult time." Kevin Kalkoven was 77 years old. Martha Earnhardt, by the way, was 91. Too many people taken from us.
Way too many. Way too many.
But that being said, on a better note, after working on it for 163 days, workers completed the reconfiguration and paving work at Atlanta Motor Speedway. All right then. Atlanta hosted 2 races in 2021. The second one was July the 11th. Right after that, workers began tearing up the old surface in preparation for that reconfiguration and pave and repave. In case you didn't realize, reconfiguration means it's going to be a little narrower in turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The banking's going to be steeper from 24 up to 28 degrees. And oh, by the way, one whale of an amount smoother with the new asphalt on it.
And that front stretch is wide.
It is. So it's going to become a bottleneck once they get through the tri-oval part and go into turn 1.
With them running the same package at Atlanta, as we stated on the on-air show, that they're going to run at Talladega and Daytona. They're running the same package. There's a lot of question marks is if they're going to invoke the yellow line rule at Atlanta. Please don't. Because I would love to see them come to the line 5 wide.
Oh, sure. Because and try and figure it out from there.
That track is wide enough to go 5 wide down the dogleg.
But not in turns 1 and 2 or 3 and 4.
No, sir.
And something that the fans won't see underneath the new pavement, they put in a brand new, all the way around the track, new drainage technology because they're trying to eliminate the weepers that have been plaguing that older surface for just about all of its life going back to the mid-1990s.
Yeah.
There are some final details that you need to do. They got lane painting and things that still need to be done as of 2 days before Christmas, but it was all completed in time for some tire testing, which actually took place the week right after New Year's, gave drivers the chance to see what the new surface is going to be like, give Goodyear a chance to figure out what the best compound of tire to bring on race weekends, and kind of get an idea of what the Gen 7 car could be able to do on it. We have an opportunity, I'm not talking about Matt and I, we have an opportunity, blessing from my wife as an anniversary present, to do another racing experience. And we were initially talking about going back to Talladega to do it again. But it looks like we might...
We're going that way.
We're trying to go to Atlanta. And we're going to check out the new track. The first weekend that the driving experience over there was open happens to be on a weekend where, well, we're going to be busy.
We're a little busy.
It's Talladega weekend.
But there's another driving experience that's just a wee bit faster than those driving cars that run in June. I think I'm going to try that one.
Yeah, so looks like Matt, myself, our wives... Who knows? Maybe producer John, if he can find the time, might do a little trek over to Atlanta and spend a day over there. We'll let you know.
Let's go.
So, let's see what else we got here. Oh, yes, the offer from Speedway Motorsports Incorporated to buy Dover Motorsports and their 2 tracks. This was something that was starting to be worked on as we came towards the end of the 2021 Cup Series NASCAR, I guess we'll put it that way, season. They came to an agreement. All the details still had to be worked out. Well, as it turned out, just before Christmas, all the contingencies had been completed to satisfaction of both sides. The sale was finalized as of December the 22nd. The tracks each host one NASCAR 2022 weekend, but past that, NASCAR said all things are on the table. We've said this before. Dover might be on the chopping block.
I called that shot.
Dover might be on the chopping block. Nashville probably not. Especially as much as NASCAR seems to be invested in what's going on in Nashville now, and as much as SMI seems to be involved in Nashville now. Because not only do they have now Nashville Speedway, Super Speedway, they have a controlling interest in the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, where they're trying to bring some NASCAR action there. Plus, of course, you got the postseason award ceremony all in Nashville. So I get the funny feeling Nashville Super Speedway's fine. Dover... maybe not past 2022. We'll see.
Yeah, get the ventilator out for Dover.
2024 to start talks. And according to some reports, ABC ESPN might be interested in getting back into that action. They know that NASCAR doesn't want any lapse in TV coverage, so again, conversations likely will begin on some level sometime this year. And according to Sports Business Journal writer John Auerland, while no TV contracts are likely to be announced in 2022, don't count it out, because he asserts Fox will want to review. He's adamant in that. But with that sign-off of the NBC Sports Network, and moving several IndyCar races over to the USA Network, and trying to fit them in along with NASCAR, well, we talked about this during the on-air show. 14 races this year in IndyCar of 17 will be on NBC. Only 2 will be on USA. 1 will be on the Peacock streaming service alone. Which means, in all likelihood, we're probably going to get a whole lot of NASCAR action on the USA Network. Will NASCAR like that?
I don't know.
So they may be a little bit more willing to make that move, and NBC might be willing to let it go in favor of their IndyCar coverage. Ireland predicts that new deals will be showing a continued split of Cup and Xfinity coverage between Fox and ESPN. We'll get to more of this stuff later. We hope that you liked this particular edition. We'll try and do this a little bit more often, maybe not quite as long and in-depth. But hope you join us again next week. Remember, we're on our brand new radio home, 95.1 The Mountain. If you can't catch it, get the radio app. But always keep in tune right here. YouTube, subscribe to this on the Championship Racing Network. That way you get all kinds of notes when it is that we're posting a new video. That way you're notified of it. And of course, on our Facebook page and all of our social media pages, just search Championship Racing Network. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week right here on CRN.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.